intake manifold side of things, which is also 3D printed, but going to require a bit more post-processing and assembly, so stay tuned for that. What's up, guys? Welcome back. In this episode, we're going to talk about some more 3D printed metal parts. In this case, the intake manifold, which is done in laser centered aluminum. So just going through our friend CraftCloud, and if you missed the previous episode, I designed a turbo manifold in CAD and used CraftCloud services to get that 3D printed into that. The process for this is pretty similar, but there's going to be some additional assembly and post-processing, so we're going to check that out in this video.
So we're not going to spend a lot of time in Fusion 360, but I wanted to take a moment to show that the underlying tools that we used to build the intake runners are the same that I demonstrated on the previous video for the turbo manifold. Each runner consists of two sketch profiles connected by a lock using a line as the centerline guide path to control the shape of the runner. Then each one was hollowed out with a shell tool, and then all combined to form the intake manifold. I'd love to tell you that the whole design process was super smooth, but I learned a lot along the way and made a ton of mistakes in the workflow and my approach on how I designed the intake. After I sent the files out for 3D printing, I ended up exporting all of the components as step files to save on all the overhead that the timeline was consuming every time I had to make a small change. But after all the files were done, I sent them out to CraftCloud. To the prices of each of the components. Go to the description below, you'll find a discount code for 10% off the first order with CraftCloud. If you ended up with an intake manifold of comparable dimensions to the one shown here, that would give you $200 off that order.
When you receive a 3D printed aluminum part, it's probably going to look something like this, with a nice matte gray finish. When the parts come off the printer, there's usually some support removal or some light cleanup sanding that's done, and then they go through and sandblast the parts to get a nice uniform finish. This makes for a really nice looking part, and it's pretty much ready to use as is unless you have to do any welding to it. One thing to be aware of is that the sandblasted finish picks up grease and fingerprints very easily, so you're going to want to be careful about keeping this clean before you do any sort of coating. If you are going to weld it, the sandblast may apparently embed some impurities in the surface, so you're going to want to go through with a sanding disc or a flap wheel and just clean up any of your weld joints to make sure you have a nice clean base of your weld suit. When you do get to welding, expect it to weld just like any other cast aluminum part. If you've ever welded an elbow to a compressor housing or something similar like a oil drain back fitting to an oil pan, expect similar results.
The first step of post-processing that I did was to tap all of the required holes. All of the holes were printed to the correct drill size, so all I had to do was run the tap through them. Of course, after adding some Tap Magic for lube to ensure that the threads cut nice and clean without any galling of the metal. On the inlet plenum, I designed a tap fixture to make sure that the tap went in nice and straight and perpendicular to the surface. The studs are quite long at 80 millimeters, and any angular misalignment of the tap is going to be horribly apparent when you go to try and install the throttle body. This did the job of keeping the studs nice and straight, and we don't have any issues when we go to install the parts afterward. As mentioned earlier, you want to make sure that the weld joints are nice and clean, so we're going to go through and clean all those up with the sanding disc on the die grinder. After tack welding, you first pull the impact position and go through and finish welding all the way around. In this case, I used 1/16 inch diameter 43 filler. And when you go through, we're going to weld the turtle out. The next step was to pressure test the end caps to make sure that they were free of leaks. If there was a leak, it may not be easily accessible to fix after the inlet plenum or intake are welded to the assembly. In order to pressure test it, I ordered two 2-12 ORV plugs off Amazon. one of which was simply threaded into one of the coolant ports. The other I chucked in the lathe. This was done in order to use an 8-inch centrifugator valve in order to pressurize the assembly. I actually don't have a full air compressor in my garage, so I just used a Milwaukee M12 tire inflator to generate the required pressure. In this case, we tested it to 40 psi, put it underwater to look for any air bubbles escaping, and everything sealed up nice and tight. Since we had no apparent leaks, the next step was to weld the coolant funnel. For the next part of the process, we needed to ensure that the injector O-rings would have a nice smooth surface in which to seal against. The as-printed injector bung surface is not smooth enough to get a consistent seal, so the method that I chose to achieve a reasonable surface finish was a 14mm Flexstone. The Flexstone was something on the order of 20 to 25 bucks. It provided a nice means of slowly removing material to get us to the correct finish. I had the access holes for the shank of the hone to bring the printer in the intake, so everything lined up with the ports. They were a little bit undersized, so I had to go through and open them up with a 1/4-inch drill bit. From there, just systematically went through the hole until we had a finish all the way through. After the O-ring surfaces were all finished up, we then headed to the belt sander to sand the flange flat.
No! God, please, no! No! So based on my last video, a few of you are probably headed to the comments right now to rage type something about how it's impossible for a belt sander to make flat. Now, flat is a relatively meaningless term in the manufacturing sense unless you have some context and tolerance to it. It's sort of like asking how long is a string. Well, the good part is we quantify flatness. We do so with a round straight edge and a feeler gauge. The smallest feeler gauge that I have is 0.02 of an inch, or 0.051 millimeters in thickness, and that's actually convenient for us because the general rule of thumb for flatness on a cylinder head with the expectation to seal a head gasket, 1,000 plus psi combustion pressure, oil, coolant, all that nastiness, is about 1 thou of allowable tolerance per cylinder. In our case, we're going to consider the rotary 2-cylinder engine, and thus a 2 thou feeler gauge is just about perfect. So basically what you're going to want to do is set up your straight edge on the longest run to get the best possible indication of how flat this is, or how flat it might not be.